Hello guys, this is MB Cash, back with a brand new video. Today is the last video in my October Phantom series. So, man, I can't believe I've gone this far. And it's been a very interesting series. You know, I never thought I would ever think of doing a little series like this dedicated to the Phantom of the Opera, especially for Halloween time. But, you know, it was just a random thought, and I thought, you know, I'm just going to give it a go. In the first video, we took a look at the Telco Phantom Motionette, and then after that, we took a look at my mask collection. And then last week, we took a look at my Lon Chaney Phantom action figures. So for the last video, I decided to take a look at some books and movies that I have in my Phantom collection. Now, the reason why I decided to do books is because I figure, well, we might as well go to the very beginning, because as you know, The Phantom of the Opera was first written as a novel by French writer Gaston Leroux. And if it wasn't for that novel, we wouldn't have the Lon Chaney film or the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. So I thought we'd go ahead and take a look at the book in this video, as well as some of the well-known adaptations on film that I just happen to own. So what you can see here, I have 3 books and 3 movies. So let's go ahead and get started with the books first. So I'm going to move these guys out of the way, and we'll go ahead and start with this one. So this is the original novel by Gaston Leroux, The Phantom of the Opera. It's published by Signet Classics, and you'll notice it's got a really neat cover art. That's the grand staircase in the foyer of the Paris Opera House, and I like that silhouette up in the foreground of the Phantom. I think that's so cool. I picked this up back in 2009 at a Barnes & Noble in Riverside, so that was my freshman year of college, and I had read the book before. I read it in high school. I had checked it out at my high school's library and really liked it. So I decided, you know what, it's time to own the book. So I went to Barnes & Noble's and picked it up. So it's very neat. It's a paperback. That's what the back looks like. I'm going to focus here. I'm going to show you how much I paid for it. Full focus. Oh, once again, this camera just doesn't want to focus. Okay, well, I don't know how well you can see that. Okay, there we go. Oh, there we go. I was looking at the barcode. So, I paid about $4.95, so in tax, I want to say maybe like 5 something, I don't know. But you get the idea. So, The Phantom of the Opera, filled with the spectacle of a Paris opera house in the 19th century, this classic work of mystery and suspense remains a riveting journey into the dark regions of the human heart. The tale begins as an investigation into the strange stories of an opera ghost, legendary for scaring actors as they sit alone in their dressing rooms or walk along the building's labyrinthine corridors. Some even think they've seen the ghost in evening clothes moving in the shadows. But it isn't until the triumphant performance of beautiful Christine Daae that the Phantom begins his attacks, striking terror in the hearts of everyone in the theater. A story that has captured the imagination of audiences for almost a century, The Phantom of the Opera continues to thrill readers, theatergoers, and filmgoers to this day as an unparalleled work of sheer entertainment. With a new introduction by Dr. John L. Flynn. Now, I'm not much of a book reviewer, so I'm not really going to go into, you know, discussing the plot and everything. And plus, by now, most of you have already heard of the Phantom, so you most likely already know, you know, the general idea or the basic storyline. You know, he's a guy who lives underneath the Paris Opera House, and he's disfigured, so he hides his face behind a mask, and he's in love with a beautiful opera singer and all that. So this is definitely one of my favorite books of all time. I'm not much of a reader. There's only certain there's only a few exceptions, and The Phantom of the Opera is one of them. It's just to me, one of the greatest Gothic novels of all time. To me, it's up there with, the likes of Dracula and Frankenstein. So this is what the inside of the book looks like. I'll just flip through the chapters here. So it's a basic, it's just a basic novel. That's all you're getting. But yeah, it's a pretty good book, and I recommend it for those of you who haven't read it. Maybe if you have seen the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, whether if it's on stage or the movie version, or have seen other film versions such as the Chaney film or the Claude Rains film or the Herbert Lom Hammer film, but you haven't seen or you haven't read the book, definitely check it out. It's go to your library, check it out if they have it, or if you want to buy it, go to Barnes and Nobles or buy it online. Just do whatever. So that's that. This next one I'm going to show you is, I'll get to that later. This one is a Step Up Classic Chillers edition. Now, I picked this up at, I'm sorry, my voice. I picked this up at my local library. They were having a sale. They were just selling a lot of their old books, and I happened to pick this one up. As you can see, for a start, it's seen its better days. The quality, the condition is not that good. It's obviously been used, which is expected. I mean, this book was in the public library for such a long time. A lot of people have checked it out, so... But, it is what it is, and really digging that cover art right there. You can see it's the Phantom. And this one, he's wearing a top hat and a really, really small white domino. I don't know about you, but that's not exactly the ideal mask for covering a full face deformity such as the Phantom. So you might have gone with a better mask than that. And then top hat's kind of funny, because usually I picture the top... usually when I picture the Phantom wearing a hat, it's usually along the lines of a fedora, like in most adaptations. But anyway, so this is from Step Up Classic Chillers, and basically these were books that took classic novels and stories, and they were adapted to where children can understand them. So kind of almost like... those what are they called? Great illustrated classics, where they take classic literature and they adapt them into a children's level of reading, so that way kids can understand them. So this is what you get right here. So it's a lot shorter, as you can see, how comparing the width, and it's adapted by Kate McMullen. And let's see, in the back here, here's a little read-up. He has the voice of an angel and the face of a monster. When he takes off his mask, people scream. Only one person has ever loved the Phantom of the Opera. Step Up Classic Chillers are wonderfully scary, yet easy to read. They're adapted from... It's hard to read that because, this part is just worn out. Let me see. They're adapted from... some of the best books ever written. I assume that's what it is. Read them all if you dare. The Vampire, The Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, King Kong, that's an interesting one, I have to look for that, and The Mysteries of Sherlock Holmes. Now, one neat thing about this particular book is it's got some neat illustrations, and I'll show you one of them. So this is what it looks like when you open it. The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, adopted by Kate McMullen, and the illustrations are done by Paul Jennis. So here's just an example of... There we go. They're all done in black and white, but they're still pretty cool. They're really neatly done. These are nice illustrations. So you can see this is the Phantom, and I assume that's his mother. And for those of you who are familiar with the story and the backstory of Eric, the Phantom, his mother never showed him any affection because of his disfigurement. She couldn't even bring herself to kiss him. How sad. There's another one right there. This is pretty cool. He's got the Phantom. He's got a long set of hair. And again, that domino mask, that just doesn't really cut it for covering his face. This must be the masked ball. This is the Apollo's Lyre scene, where the Phantom is eavesdropping on Christine and Raoul's conversation on the rooftop of the opera. And let's see, just one more. And this is the torture chamber. This is where Raoul and the Persian are trapped in the Phantom's torture chamber, where they are surrounded by mirrors and are exposed to extreme heat. Yeah, I know the story. So it's a really nice. Book. I haven't really gotten the chance to read it yet, but from overall, I mean, it looks nice. I mean, from what I gather, it should be really simple. I mean, this is adapted for kids, so it should be a very easy read. But I do like the illustrations. I think they're really neat. So I'm gonna put that off to the side, and this one is my favorite, and it's this gem right here. This one is a Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. So this is the original novel, but this one has some really awesome and superb illustrations by Greg Hildebrandt. For those of you who are wondering, Greg Hildebrandt, that sounds very familiar. A lot of his paintings, he does a lot of Star Wars paintings. I think some of them were actually used for some of the posters. So if you look up Greg Hildebrandt, for sure, you'll come up with you'll see a lot of Star Wars paintings. But this is so cool. The front cover is just amazing. You got the Phantom there in his Red Death attire from the masked ball scene, and I love the gold. It really just brings it out. In the back here is the Phantom's mask. It's very, very nice. The gold on black, it just adds a nice touch to it. I picked this up a few years ago on Amazon, and I got it for $15, which is great. I mean, I think something like this is kind of rare. I'm not really too sure, but this thing was published this thing came out in the 80s. Yeah. So this is what it looks like when you open it. So this is basically the, look at that. This is the Phantom's organ. I love this. I don't know what that is, but it's a skull, but it looks so cool. This is basically the Leroux story, so it's just exactly like, the this one right here. So for those of you who have a copy of the novel, this is basically what it is, but it's just the illustrations to me really make this a gem. So right here, when you open it up, you got a scene here in the foyer with a grand staircase. Phantom of the Opera, illustrated by Greg Hildebrandt, story by Gaston Leroux. You got a ticket for the opera Faust, which is very important into the story's plot. It plays a huge role in it. So I love these illustrations on just like the chamber. I mean the list of chapters here. The list even has a list of illustrations. So each illustration has a name. You can see there's the scorpion and the grasshopper, just like in the ending of the book where Christine has to choose scorpion and the grasshopper. So we got a prologue right here, and I'm not going to read all that. So there's the first chapter. Is it the ghost? And here's some. I'm just going to skim through these illustrations real quick. I won't be able to show them all, but there's this one right here, the corps de ballet, after they've seen the opera Ghost. I'm actually gonna, let me look for my favorite. There's Christine and Raoul right there. But I want to show you my favorite. I think, in my opinion, the best of all the illustrations. See if I can find it. I know it's here somewhere. Okay, I skipped it. It's very early on in... Or actually, real quick, let me show you this one. I have to show you this. This is a famous scene. Everybody knows this, the falling of the chandelier. It's been in almost every adaptation. It's in the Chaney movie. It's in the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. There we go. This by far is the best of all the illustrations. This one's called Raoul Faces the Phantom. This is the part in the story where Raoul actually gets to get a glimpse of the Phantom's face, and what I like about it is very accurate to the way Leroux described Eric's deformity, because in the story, the Phantom is described as having a skull-like face, so you can see he has no nose, deep sunken eyes and cheeks. He looks almost like a zombie, looks like something out of The Walking Dead. So I think this is the best. This is the best illustration of Greg Hildebrandt's for the Phantom. It's just so cool. I would really love to see a new movie of Phantom of the Opera where we actually get to see a deformity like this, because so far, the closest to the the Leroux novel that we have is the Chaney movie. And ever since, every other adaptation has done their own thing in terms of the Phantom's disfigurement. And I'll show you one more. Let's see. No, not that one. Maybe that's really cool when he's holding his mask. You can see he's got a black mask, because in the book, the Phantom had a black mask, so they even got that right in this one. This is a nice one. This is the Phantom with Christine. And there's one that I also like. It's where Christine actually... Oh, this is cool. This is where she's just unmasked him, and she gets to get a look at his horrible face. So again, I love that disfigurement. I love that skull-like appearance. There it is. This kind of reminds me of the Chaney film, where he's playing the organ, or even the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. It's the same thing. He's on the organ, playing his music, and then Christine just sneaks up from behind him and takes off the mask. So it's a very important part of the story. So I really love this edition. This is definitely something I'm going to be holding on to for a very long time, and obviously I won't be reading it because I just want to preserve and protect this thing for as best as possible. So if I ever want to read the story, then I'll just stick to this one, because it's the same thing, just this one has really awesome illustrations. So that's the books. Now let's get on to the film, the movies, because if it wasn't for the book, then we wouldn't have the movies. So let's go ahead and start with the one that started everything in terms of Phantom films. This is the Lon Chaney film, the classic silent horror film. This one that I have is the Ultimate Edition from the Milestone Collection. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Lon Chaney film is a silent film that's in the public domain. So basically a number of... Well, one, you can easily find it online and download it. You can watch it on YouTube for free. And various companies have released the film on DVD and recently Blu-ray, and each with its own music. But this one is, I think, the most superior of all the versions out there. And very big thanks to the Phantom Reviewer on YouTube. If you've ever heard of Phantom Reviews, go check that guy out. It's really funny, very cool. I saw his review on the Lon Chaney Phantom film, and he gives you very, very important advice on which version of this film to watch, because one thing to point out that he mentioned is, again, it's a silent film, so when the silent films came out back in the day, the local theaters had to provide music, and because a lot of different companies have released this film on DVD, a lot of them have their own music, and some of them from according to the Phantom reviewer, some of these companies were just lazy and just put together just out of copyright classical music and just put it in the film without any consideration as to whether the music fits the mood or the scene or not. But this edition has a wonderful score by Carl Davis, and it's superb. A lot of the music, it just fits every scene, especially during the descent to the lair. I love the music that Davis has composed for that scene because it really sells the idea of entering a dream. It's got 2 discs. So one thing that's really interesting about this is the first disc is the 1929/1930 sound version or reissue, but silent, because another thing that you guys may not know is the so-called 1925 silent film that you've most likely are used to have probably seen was actually the 1929 sound reissue, but just with all the music, because unfortunately for the longest time, the original theatrical version from 1925 didn't exist. It was lost, or just there was no decent quality of the original picture. So they took the 1929 sound reissue and just removed all the sound, because back then they re-released the film but as a talkie, but in order to present the film in the best way possible, they just took that version and just removed the sound and made it a silent film again. But luckily, you have on the second disc is the original theatrical version released in 1925, and it's been restored as much as possible. I mean, the picture quality is still not the best, but overall it's still a gem because, it's what the audiences actually saw in 1925. And another thing that just makes this thing so cool is it's Lon Chaney. As I mentioned last week in my action figure review, to me, Chaney is the definitive Phantom. He is the greatest Phantom ever. And it's his performance that just makes this film an icon. So you can see here, this is what we have. So the 1929 restored version featuring 2 soundtracks, stereo orchestral score by Carl Davis, and then there's the original 1930 sound edited to fit the picture. So you do get the talkie version, and I've watched it. It's very cheesy. I don't really like it. It's also got some audio commentary by film historian Scott McQueen, as well as theatrical trailers and still galleries featuring deleted or missing scenes. There we go. And then we also have on disc 2, so like I said, it's the 1925 original feature film, so that's actually the one that was released in theaters back in 1925 with a score by John Mersiles. I hope I'm pronouncing it. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And a bunch of other stuff, so really glad I have this one because the Chaney movie is my favorite of all film versions of the Phantom. And I might get a second one. I might have to look into research, do some research on which other versions of this film are good, so I may be able to pick one up. So moving on, now let's go on to 1943's Phantom. This is the one with Claude Rains as the Phantom. Claude Rains played the Invisible Man in the 1930s, and with this version, Universal decided to do another version of the Phantom. They decided to remake the Phantom of the Opera. And what's neat about this one, compared to a lot of the other Universal monsters, is this one's in color, whereas the other Universal monster movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy are in black and white. Now this one in particular is really cool. This is a brand new one that I just picked up a few weeks ago. This has a glow-in-the-dark slipcover. And these are exclusive for limited time at Walmart. I saw them at Walmart one day, and I thought they were so cool. They're basically selling, just for Halloween time, the Universal classic monster films with these really cool glow-in-the-dark slipcovers. I won't be able to show you what it looks like because I don't think it's gonna. Well, maybe I can. I may have to kill off the lights, but first, let me go ahead and show you what the back looks like. So an original Universal classic monster. You got some images of from the film. You got the poster right there. Movie trivia. See if I can show that. The film set of the Paris Opera House stage, located on Universal Stage 28, is reportedly the oldest remaining film set in the world and rumored to be haunted. I don't believe that stage is there anymore. I think they demolished it. If so, that's sad. The bonus features include The Opera Ghost, A Phantom Unmasked, really nice documentary. They talk about this film, the Chaney film, and the Herbert Lom film from Hammer. Feature commentary, just like this one over, this guy over here. It's got a feature commentary by film historian Scott McQueen, production photographs, and theatrical trailer. So, the slipcover is really cool. It's I like the close-up there of Claude Rains. And now when you take it off, this is what you get. This is basically just a standard DVD, but just with new packaging. So it's got a black and white cover art right there with Phantom of the Opera, and the back is pretty much the same. Very nice. This is definitely one I recommend you check it out. I mean, it's nowhere as great as the 1925 version, and Claude Rains as the Phantom is okay. But, he's definitely no Lon Chaney, but still I recommend you try it and check it out. All right. Lastly is the one that everybody has most likely seen already and is very familiar with. This is the 2004 film version of Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical, and this is the one that stars Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum and Patrick Wilson as the Phantom, Christine, and Raoul. I got this 11 years ago as a Christmas gift. 11 years ago, it was 2005. That's when I first saw this movie. And it's kind of really what really made me a fan of the Phantom. I know when I mentioned in my Telco Phantom review that, that little motionette is what made me a fan of the Phantom. But after I watched this film, it just grew. So that's where really just my obsession with Phantom of the Opera really began. This is the full screen edition, and it's just the basic DVD. So there's no like bonus features. There's no making of documentaries or anything like that. It's just your standard disc. Now, one thing something I'm gonna go ahead and say, because I've watched this movie over and over again, but because I've actually seen the stage version, I feel like nowadays and I might have mentioned this when I did my review of my masks, ever since I saw the stage version, I've never been able to watch this movie the same ever again, because one, I'm always making comparisons. I'm always comparing scenes from the movie to the stage, and I always think to myself, the stage version did that so much better, or this was so much better on stage than it is on film. And something that I also want to add on to is I just do not like Gerard Butler's Phantom that much. I like his look, his costume, the mask, and even his speaking lines, because he's got a nice deep voice, but he's not a good singer. And it still upsets me that they chose someone who's not a professionally trained singer for the role of the Phantom. Another thing I'm not too happy about is Joel Schumacher as the director. For those of you who you probably already know this, Joel Schumacher is the man responsible for killing or almost killing the Batman franchise with Batman and Robin. Batnips. Man, Joel Schumacher. Yeah, I really think they could have gotten a better director for this film. Emmy Rossum, I like Emmy Rossum as Christine. To be honest, I enjoy her. I like her voice better than Sarah Brightman. And Patrick Wilson is okay as Raoul, but I think it's just Gerard Butler that really irks me the most about this movie. It's just, yeah, they just really could have. Another thing that really bothers me about this movie is his deformity. It's bad. It just looks like it looks like a bad sunburn. The stage version, it was very cool because, you know, he had a piece of his skull or his skin at the head missing, exposing his skull. He had these really nasty scabs on his face, the deformed lips. Just it was just so much more gruesome. But in this version, they were just, oh man, I just can't really describe it. It's just bad. It's just not a good deformity. It's a sunburn. That's what I'm gonna call it. So, you know what the funny thing is? Like, whenever I watch this movie, the more and more I watch it, I feel like the less I enjoy it, because again, the stage version is just so much better, and you know, they could have had better casting choices. So, yeah. You know, I actually do own the original cast recording from the 86 London cast, and it's so beautiful. Maybe except for Sarah Brightman, but everything else is just brilliant. So, you know, even just by listening to that over and over again, it just makes me dislike this version when I watch it. So, okay, so let's see if I can go ahead and get this glow-in-the-dark feature to work. I'm going to try it on. Let me see if I can kill the lights for a moment. If not, then, oh well. But there we go. All right, let's see what that looks like. Probably not going to be able to see it that well, so my apologies. I was really hoping you'd be able to see that more. So let me just get all the lights back on. I'm filming this on my bed, by the way. I'm sorry, my feet have my feet are in the picture. I'm sorry about that. But I like the sheets, that's why. So this is my Phantom film and book collection. So I'm very pleased with it, and again, I'm just really happy that I was able to do these reviews and just show, you know, my show my love for Phantom of the Opera. It's just one of my favorite stories of all time, and it's sad that I have to come to the series has to come to a close. But you know, maybe in the future, you know, if I end up getting more Phantom collectibles, I'll just have to do new videos. So, without further ado, I really hope you guys enjoyed the series since it first began a few weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to doing more video reviews. Looking forward to getting more Phantom collectibles, because, you know, as the more my obsession with Phantom grows, the more I'm going to want in terms of just anything Phantom related, whatever I can get my hands onto. So, this is NB Cash, and I like to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, favorite, and until next time, I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween, and God bless.